Welcome to the Eddie Network podcast. I'm your host, Ed Breniger, and my guest today is Susan Sneath, who I've met recently as we shared speaking opportunities with the 360 business community. The Instead Talks 360 Degrees is an event that takes place several times during each year, and we were two of the privileged ones to be able to present in the August edition of this speaking event. So I enjoyed listening to her, and so I invited her to come be on the podcast. And I know you're going to enjoy our conversation today. Glad you're here. Um,
Aha.
and I'm right. I've taken on a very difficult philosophical subject of time and reality.
All righty.
And
Time and realities. Oh boy, we could just talk about that, my friend. Honestly, seriously.
I've projected. I'm not. I'm not a Cartesian in that I don't believe that we think, therefore we are. I think we are, therefore we think and experience and learn. But
Mm.
that's the challenge of the modern world is it begins with the individual, the center of the individual as a thinking person, and wants to suggest that everything follows from that, and that we create our own reality and intention. I believe, being intentional and purposeful and all that, but I, at the same time, I don't think reality is like that. I think reality exists in some larger realm that we have to learn how to address and live within. And once
Oh, I love that.
once we do, then let me give you a couple pieces of this. Okay, this is
Oh,
Eliot,
beautiful.
T.S. Eliot.
Part- Okay, go for it.
Time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. If all time is eternally present, then all time is unredeemable. What might have been is an abstraction, remaining a perpetual possibility only in a world of speculation. First lines of the four quartets. So this writing is in two forms: nonfiction, theoretical. Um, this book will have a chapter on perception, reality, time, and we'll also cover people like Eliot and Shakespeare and how they view time. And then I'm writing a novel
Hmm.
that captures this whole thing as well.
Hmm. Beautiful.
So the novel begins with a professor, a philosophy professor. Um, well, it's a story of a young man who becomes an old man, but he goes to,
The young, just one moment, just don't want to catch my ear. The young man who,
he'll become an old man. So
oh,
this is
good, good, good.
his story.
Got it. Got
And,
it.
and the story is about two men who have been influential in his life, one being his grandfather, who taught him what reality is, and the other is his professor, who teaches him that there is no reality and there is no time. And he begins this first semester of his college career in this philosophy class, where the professor begins the class by saying, "There is no past nor future, only the now. Everything that has everything that has existed in the past has vanished into simulation." So all the stuff we see on is really a simulation. AI is a simulation.
Oh,
He's
yeah, yeah.
capturing these are stories that may not reflect reality, but they become reality because we choose to follow the story, and
Yes.
and as a result, we end up in a world where We're basically alienated from reality, and we're alienated from ourselves.
Beautiful. Okay. Mm, so how did you come to move into this area of writing about time and reality?
Um, Back in 2012, I went to a conference taught by a philosophy professor from Calvin University in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he was talking about postmodern thought, and I didn't know anything about postmodern thought. I had one philosophy professor of philosophy class in college, and I mean I've been to seminary. I have two seminary degrees, but we didn't talk about this in the way that he was telling us. And so I started reading this stuff, and one of the persons I read is Jean Baudrillard, and I've got his book somewhere in here. Oh, it's at the bottom of the stack. And he wrote a book
Excellent.
called Simulacra and Simulation. And basically he says that, and he's also written a book called The Perfect Crime.
Hmm.
And a chapter in there is called um, The Murder of the Real. And he's saying that the world that we live in is all the simulation, and we do not really know what reality is, and therefore nothing that we see and hear represents things that we can actually trust in.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm in like Flint.
So in
Hmm.
2013, I wrote an essay
Hmm.
on my podcast. I mean, not my podcast, my weblog at that time called "The
Yeah.
Spectacle of the Real," and I speak about it in terms of how news events get reported. And so you have all these opinion people on there telling us, well, what this is what went on when it may not have gone on in the way they describe it. And that all the things that kind of capture our attention, sports and politics and things like that,
Hmm.
even pornography, all of these are simulations of reality. They're not real. And they're intended to capture our attention and suspend our critical judgment
Mm.
so that we are better consumers of products and ideas.
There we go. Yes. Check. Yes.
So that's what I'm working on.
This beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And so I'm I'm thoroughly enjoying this. So I'm interested in pursuing
Well,
some of the things you're talking about, and yet whatever you want to play with, because this is basically the fabric I am made from. This is
let me give you one more piece of what I'm talking about, and then we can.
good. Yay. This because this is it. This is the game, man. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would look at a lot of YouTube stuff and
Okay.
looking at philosophers and physicists and scientists and people who are knowledgeable about whatever they're knowledgeable about.
Yep.
And I keep seeing pieces where they say, well, there is no time. Time doesn't exist.
Hmm.
And 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 they're saying reality doesn't exist. It's a mental construct, things like that. And
Hmm.
and so I'm asking the question, well, where did you come up with this idea? Because there was something resonant out there that you were responding to, which gave you this idea.
Hmm.
And so as I've been thinking about this, and this has been over the last, in one sense, out of the last 12 years, but really intentionally over the last 6 months,
Okay.
I came to the conclusion that all our that the past, present, and future are a continuity. There's a continuity between past, present, and the future,
Yeah.
and that we interpret the present and we act in the future based on what I'm calling generational memory. So what our experience in our families were, what our experience in their schools were, our experience in jobs that we'd had in the past, these are all generations of our lives, and they form memories that dictate how we make decisions and choices. And if you grew up in a home where there was trauma, then your generational memory is going to be filled with trauma, and you're going to respond to the world differently than someone like me, where there was no trauma. It was a happy experience, and so I embrace the past and embrace everything as something good. So I
Hmm.
think being able to look at the past as something that informs us and create it exists before we are even aware of it existing. The
Oh,
way
yeah.
our mother, the way our mothers held us when we were infants,
Yeah.
and if our
Yeah.
mothers allowed us to nurse with her rather than to be bottle fed, that would create a generational memory, which I don't have the right to dictate, say what that means, but the person who has that memory and remembers that has some kind of recollection of the closeness to her mother in that way. That is something that we can build upon for the future. So that's, and I'm finding when I talk about generational memory, people respond to that idea,
Okay.
and it's both a positive and a negative thing, but it's still something that's real to them.
Okay. I have a little bit of, when you're ready, I could push
Yeah,
the
tell
boundaries of
me
that a little bit.
what I'm interested in. And I mean, I
Hmm.
love what you did last week at our. I thought your presentation was the perfect wrap up to the whole thing.
Yeah,
And
that
and
was my intention.
but I'm not being critical. I'm just saying what I felt like I missed was the essence of Susan. And that
Hmm.
maybe was your essence, but I think I would have loved just to hear you give us a regular talk and
Hmm.
instead of kind of blending us all together, which was great. I'm not being negative. I'm not being critical.
No,
I'm just saying there's more to you than I saw there, and that's why I've invited you on the podcast.
yeah, excellent, cool.
So
So I'm just going to receive that, just going to say, yay. It was intentional because I was the end of a day, and part of my gift is to pull threads together. And I thought I had my talk prepared, and I went from looking like at a huge garden of the various things I could speak about, and then choosing one flower.
yeah,
And then I said, and then I want to create the overview, so, and the presentation, so that I could also, because that is partly me, is I do draw threads together. That's part of my gift. And so, yes, fabulous, because yeah, there's way buckets, hugely buckets more, and there wasn't room for them in that particular place. So this is yay. I'm going
so
super great.
you have certain things that you look for when you're working with someone or a group or something? Or there, maybe, and one way of talking about that would be patterns. Are there patterns that you see that emerge in people's lives or in groups and that you pick up on and say, "Oh, okay, let's open this pattern up and see what's there." Like
Yes,
it's a flower or something like that.
yes. And part of that is that thing that you're talking about, again, in essence, is time and reality.
Yeah.
And how do we notice how we would react, and then how could we encourage ourselves to respond?
Yeah.
in a way that can build forward, in a way that can nourish our community. And mm, and so when I am with a group, when I'm working with folks, they come to me and they say, this is what I want to happen. Is it possible? And I'll go, well, let's find out what you wish and what you have been doing about it. This is where you and I are hooked inseparably, from handy to think, better to do.
Yeah.
However, you must think to sort what you have done and have intentionality. You just don't go redoing stuff. Go,
Yeah.
well, I just did it. That's the thing. Then we also need to, and this is something I personally explore, which is what is time, what is reality. I wear a watch on my wrist. I have 3 of them. I call them my idea bracelets because they give me an idea of what time is, for me to always remember that time is an idea.
Yeah.
Okay? And then I look for the people who want to think about things deeply and take action. Sometimes they're not ready to take action, but
Right.
they decide to anyway. I'm going to be there going, yes, you take action. I'll write it down. Let's debrief. Let's find out where you got to next. Let's um, let's
Is,
go farther, if you will, or
is
if you wish.
is there anything that you're typically finding that is sort of like um, a barrier or a barricade to people finding that out on their own, where they come to you because they need to see something and find something, but there's some kind of obstacle in the way that you're helping them
Yeah,
get over that obstacle, get through it, or remove it.
yeah.
And
They need
what do you see
Yep.
as those obstacles? What are those things that you typically are
The
finding?
first thing is they need a sounding board.
Mm-hmm.
Many times they'll say, I just want you as a sounding board. And I'll go, okay, cool. And yet they want, I bring a lot of joy.
Yeah.
So whatever they're doing, I say to them right off I'm a coach, career coach, life balance coach, career coach. And I say, I break the mold of coaching this. I'm not going to be the deadpan one, whatever. I said, the world gives you enough of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be saying, yay. I'm going to say, okay, all righty. There we go. However, having said that, I'm the perfect person for you because I do love you,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't care. Absolutely do not care what you do. I don't care. So do whatever you want to, and then let's find out what happens next. So many of the people that I work with, they have a challenge with being decisive. They don't understand what true decision making is all about.
Yeah.
They don't understand about taking a chance and doing things. They don't understand about, this is another version of time, which I'm passionately devoted to, which is you must invest time. You don't just get something. I took the time to get a thing. No, you invest time. And this is part of what interested me and you, Ed, when you invest the time to talk with people. What is it that you wish? How could I be of assistance to you? So many of the people that I work with have no sense of community, Ed.
Yeah.
They go, I'll just use this for example. Look at this. I made a great resume. How do I make it so that they will see me? I go, oh, good. So I do resumes. We can have a look at it. But who do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Have you taken the time to listen to them, to
Yeah.
fall in love with them? I use love in many ways. Altruism is a big chunk of it.
Mm-hmm.
I say to fall in love with them and find out what they need. You know what you're doing. A lot of what I'll do in the coaching, people don't know who they are. I'll say, what are your key values? And then I will push them. And how have you acted upon that? Have you acted upon that?
You know
What
what
have you done?
I have found, and I think this is what you're addressing. And it required me to change my thinking about things because, I was, for a long time I just saw how people were being very self-centered and selfish and egotistical. But then I discovered there was a whole host of other people who weren't that way, and they weren't that way, and this is going to be an odd thing to say, because they didn't believe in themselves. And if you can't believe in yourself, if you can't believe that you can make a difference that matters, then you won't. And you won't be able to invest the time and do all those things that you just described in order to become the person that you want to be.
I'm in 3,000% accord with you.
Yeah.
And that is why it was my daughter who said to me, Mom, if you're going to talk about anything, talk about star stories. I went, oh, everybody knows that. And she goes, no, 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 do it because it made a difference with me.
What's a star story?
That was what I used inside of my presentation: situation, task, challenge, action, result. And then the best part was, so I
Will you,
plugged
uh,
that into,
will you unpack that for our audience?
yeah. Oh, and so a star story is so let's address this, Ed. I do believe that you're accurate here, that the people are going, I don't believe in myself. I'll go, excellent. So I'll say to them, and know that that's one thing I'm going to mirror to you. Excellent. I don't mean it's good that you don't believe yourself. I think that's probably pretty painful. However, fantastic that you've let me know. It could be because the workplace has worn you down. It could be because of oodle plexus of things, but at the moment you don't believe in yourself. So this is something you talked earlier about, Ed. You said there's thinking and there's doing. So
Yeah.
I say to them, tell me something you've done
Yeah.
that gave you a lift at the end of it. And now, and I said, just make a note on the paper as to what it could be. And then I say, now we're going to put it in a structure. And the structure I use is called STAR story. So that means you're going to tell the story. You're going to think to yourself, S for situation. So one time I remember I was at a volunteer. I was at my work. I was talking to a friend. I was digging in my garden. I don't care. Situation. Task and obstacle. There's never just a task with no obstacle. I have found that's
True.
real. And that is real,
Very.
definitely, time after time. Yeah. So the task and the obstacle. So there was a who cares what. And then what are the actions you took? I don't care if you're telling me how you created a hobby of yours, how you helped. I don't care what. What were the actions you took? So we can find out the different segments that are important to achieve in whatever. We're looking for transferable skills here. So what are the actions you took? What beliefs are you challenging? Even I could look at what you told me just now in a star story. You took certain actions, okay? Then the result is two-part. The result is when you're telling this story, you're going to tell it as a productive piece.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time, one folk I was working with in an interview thing, I said, tell me a star story about how you dealt with something at work. And he's not making any notes. He said, I just know it. And we're preparing for interviews. So I said, so just tell me. He said, one time I'm working in a factory. And I go, yeah. He said, I got mad. I go, yeah. He said, I walked off the floor and out of the building. Okay. I kicked a tree. Fair enough. I went back inside. I said, the result was, he said, I got fired. I said, excellent. Don't tell that story. Now you know it. Excellent. We have to look for what is the productive. So I don't really say positive.
Right.
Sometimes something could be productive a little later on.
Yeah.
But the result was we met a deadline. We achieved a goal. We were working with whatever. And then I take them deeper and I say, now I want you to tell me. And the best part was, and that is where values, our living values, our essence of where we are beyond time and beyond the reality that is in a box. that
Yeah.
people say, this is a reality, this is all there is. The value underneath that, and they'll go, oh, well, I shared a skill set with a new person on a team. Somebody had my back when I brought forward a new idea, so forth. Okay. In our session on the other day, we talked about the best part of being in the dark
Right.
in a process. And some people have said to me, it's being part of a process. It's quite uncomfortable, and yet it's still being part of a process. So when I say to people, I want you to look at the job you're in right now, and I want you to write me a few star stories of what you might like doing at that job. And then I want you to broaden the scope and tell me things you have done in any area of your life that you like. I want you to write them down in the star story format. Having said that, now I want you to start a star story of this process now. And they believe in themselves because it's there,
Well,
it's right there.
you're acknowledging them
And they're acknowledging themselves.
and they're acknowledging themselves, and therefore they have a new appreciation for what is possible. I mean, it's,
Yes, what has been, what they did.
yeah, they've already done it.
And and then you can move it forward. However, they can't, I say, because you wrote it down, it can't slip away on you.
Well, the
You,
trick is,
mhm.
it would seem, the trick would be how do we develop these skills in managers so that they
Yeah,
can give them to their people? Because what you're so if 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 you're an owner, business owner, or a manager, or a CEO, if you could endow this into your company's relationships with each other,
yes.
you would transform your company overnight.
Well, that's why my daughter said to me, you must tell this one, Mom, because that happened for her within a very big company she was in.
Yeah.
She sat with me for a long time. She'd been one of those people, you know them. When you work with them, they're like the universe, they're everything, they're blah, blah, blah. But you get them to try to talk about themselves and they forget the intention and they freeze, they whatever. So by using that context, she set herself free. And then she has made unfathomable changes inside of the whole mm, mm, company she's working with, and and just living it, just encouraging other people to do that helps her see it in all sorts of other areas, takes her further into management than she thought she would be. So I never even, but now she is coach, manager, etc., resource
I have a
consultant.
I have a saying that I use, and it's an awkward saying, and therefore people have to really listen to.
I love you so much. Go for it, man.
But the saying is there is a persistent residual. How does it go? Oh
There
my.
we go. I can wait for it.
Um, there's a persistent residual culture of values that persists because it resides in the relationships of the people.
Oh man, that's a good one.
And I've been thinking about this for a long time, but I actually used it in an instance about 6, 7 years ago. I was doing a big project with a large global corporation that was in trouble. And my project wasn't dealing with their troubles, so I never dealt with that. But I was just doing training with one segment of this large corporation, and I went to this division's headquarters, and my friend who got me into this job, was showing me around. We went into the executive suite and walked down this hallway. It's like walking into the Ritz-Carlton Hotel or Four Seasons Hotel. It's very, very elegant. And there's this woman that stands up. She's an executive assistant to one of the senior vice presidents. She stands up. She's extraordinarily formal with me, offensively formal with me. And she is, in everything in her response to my presence is, you need to get out of here. I don't want you here. And we've all been encountered, but I was a little surprised. And so my friend introduced me and what I was doing, and I said, so I just asked her, I says, how long have you worked here? And she said, I'm 48, and I started here when I was 20. And my first thought was, you really must love this place to have stayed all this time and stayed through the troubles that you all are having. And you know what I find? Is that there's a persistent residual culture of values that persists because it resides in the relationships of the people. And the people that you are connected to here at your level are the people who create the strength of this company. And this company will survive because of people like you. It won't be because of the people up in the C-suite who are short-termers. It's because of you who is a long-termer. And you and your people like you are the ones who are creating the strength of this company, and it will survive because of people like you. And her response was like melting down into her chair. And it moves me to this day because what I saw in her was finally someone understands what this place means to us.
Oh, yes.
So what you're talking about is that sort of thing. And imagine endowing that in every person that works for you. That sense of my values. And in that sense, you have to somehow get past the notion that value is only measured by what you're paid, because that's the way it gets in a transactional environment. That's what it ends up being. But when you see that your contribution has value that's not monetary, but actually something that's social and philosophical and spiritual, all of those things, then all of a sudden your company changes.
Okay. Yes. Then let's go back to reality.
Okay?
This is what I want to push on a bit.
Yeah, please.
People will say reality doesn't exist. And I've studied this for about 30 years in Buddhist philosophy, then taken it over into physics and says, what do you mean? Do you mean that if there's a wall, the wall doesn't exist? It goes, no, it doesn't. That's not what we mean at all.
Right.
It means that reality as a block that says this is it. What you see, that's it. That doesn't exist. It does not exist separate from all the other fibers.
Mm-hmm.
All that's what you went to immediately with that story of that extraordinary woman
Yeah.
who she was being the guard dog.
Yeah.
She was holding space, and then you went in there, and then you said, when you said somebody knows me, somebody, you saw her, you saw what is beyond. And that to me is where we can, because there is a little game they would play in the Buddhist philosophy where they say, what part of a table is a table? Is it the top part? Is it the leg? If we take away a leg, is it still a table? Is this leg a table? Blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't mean that you can't, they say this table doesn't exist. They mean separate from all the people who put it together, separate from the people who tended the forest where the tree grew, separate from the animals, the light, the sun, the etc. People who cut it, planed it, put it together, brought it, using it.
I
Right?
I see that as represented representative of the deep relational character of all reality.
This is the game. Oh, sorry, I yelled.
Yeah,
Yes, this is it. This is it. And yes, that's the game.
the wood of the wood of the table is in relationship with the spirit of the artist and
Oh,
of the
yeah.
space that it sits in as
There
something
we go.
utilitarian, and it all comes together. But people don't
Thanks.
see it that. But people can't think that way.
Well, and there I'm going to push again.
They can't think.
Many
They
people
don't.
can't. And when I take people into star stories, they begin to see how they connect beyond the task.
I agree with you.
They go, oh, and then I say, and because one of the hardest things, Ed, because I'm an actress, that's my first
Oh, is that right? Well,
profession, professional actress.
I can see that.
And yeah, why not? And and as a performer, nobody ever says, boy, it's just great for you to be a performer. Let's give you money. No, they don't. They say, we'll have you do a thing. I once worked with Ginger Rogers. And so you work with someone who's amazing, and then they're gone, you're off doing things. So I've learned to hold space for myself, to create that space that welcomes me and the enormity of what I can be and the despair of the hard parts of the world, and to keep connecting them, to keep saying we're more than what we are. So when we're looking at the people that I work with, they're feeling out of sync. They're feeling I don't belong. They will often say, I don't trust my manager. I'd say, well, do you know your manager? Yeah, good. Do you trust yourself? Well, I know who I am, and I've also done some work with them. I go, excellent. Could you trust them to be who they are? What? And I said, there was a story once of a tortoise wanting to cross a river, and a scorpion came to it and said, oh man, I need to get across. Could you give me a lift? And the tortoise said, I don't think so. You'll sting me. You're a scorpion. I went, no, honestly, how could it serve me? I need to cross the river. And eventually the tortoise says, okay. They get almost to the other side. The scorpion leaps off the back and then stings the tortoise. As the tortoise is going under the water, dying, it says, but you promised. You said you wouldn't. And the scorpion said, I'm a scorpion.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
yeah.
So I use this when I'm working with folks, and I'll say, you don't have to trust them to be what you want them to be. Now, that's another version of reality, Ed. We need to see the light and the dark at the same time. How does it connect? And how do we hold space for making things happen, making things change, or leaving?
Well,
Okay.
projecting your own whatever it may be onto someone else is a dangerous thing to do.
It's not going to help. It's not going to be real.
That's right.
It's a fantasy. Even if it's a good fantasy, you go,
Right.
no, you hold yours and go and find some like minded people.
Yes. I
Yeah,
gave
go find some like minded people, hang out with them. And then if you want to, go and, like you did, go into that corporation where there's a lot of hmm,
I gave a
unfortunate
talk,
things going on.
I gave a talk yesterday, a lunch and talk
Hmm.
to a group of business people, and at the end, I was asking questions, and the educational system here is in crisis. They had to let over 300 people go because of budget shortfall.
Oh,
And
dear. Mhm.
it's a really a serious problem. And so someone asks, so what do you tell these people what they should do? Well, I said, first of all, they need to kind of figure out what it is they want to do. Do they want to continue teaching?
Mhm.
There was a host of different things for them to do, and what about the ones who remain? I said, well, they too have to figure out how do I want to be in this situation,
Oh, I love that. Hmm.
and do I want to stay here? If this becomes a place that is not allowing me to fulfill my sense of purpose, do I want to stay here? And if I leave, what do I go do? I think that's one of the I think the great questions that confront us, which is, um, it's not who I am, but who I am in the circumstances of life that continue to change.
That's the game. Yeah. Because who I am is nothing different than this is a piece of metal.
Yeah,
However, it's a straw
yeah.
in my cup and it's recyclable. And it's, I can wash it out
My
and
little
etc.
little mug here.
Right?
It's
So, right? So it's not who I am. And yet there is there is education that we are taking on, Ed, folks like you and I, when we're reminding people reality goes beyond you.
yeah.
This is you. I love. You can stay. Who do you want to be, though? And then there are lots and lots of innovators, Herminia Ibarra, Margaret J. Wheatley, all sorts of people who are talking about, well, then get out there and start doing a few other things. It's risky. It is.
Well, there's risk
Yeah.
involved in everything.
Well, and you want to, it's a tired phrase that motivational speakers will be using. Do you want to be dead before they bury you?
Oh, I've never heard that before, but I
Oh
think
yeah, it's a
it's a
I don't use it, but I
right.
trotted it out to just say if you die inside by shutting yourself down, what kind of life is that?
It's a good
You know,
question. It's really
it is, you go, that's right, but I don't use it in my. It's probably I probably
it's a little too
improvised a
harsh.
little bit of it. Certainly went right to the
It's
right.
a clever statement, but it doesn't really lead to how do you get resurrected?
There you go. So the point being is it's just a window. It says what's at stake. And then when that's what you asked in a gentler way, who do you want to be moving forward? Who can you be within that situation and open themselves up? That's what that beautiful book, Range, is about, where it says you can be all sorts of different things responding to different situations. Go and find the need. And if you need to volunteer, tighten your belt, adjust your spending plan. However, you're not stuck. And who do you love? Who are you going to be devoted for? What do they need doing? And
So
so you opened up all sorts of possibilities for them, Ed.
let me ask this question because um, you've been doing this a while. This kind of work. 30 years, is that? Did I hear you say that?
I've been doing career coaching for about coming up 3 years, and yet I've been living these things and working as the things that I speak of are ways that I've integrated into my life, no matter what other jobs I was doing to figure out where would I end up. And so I would say, yeah, 30 years of putting into practice these principles and then finding different places where they would want to
So over
utilize
these
these
30
skills.
years,
Mhm.
what is it that you say this is not about who you are, but what is it that you see as having um, been moments of change in the world that have had either positive or negative effects upon people that become these reference points for people as they begin to define who they are or try to define who they are. But they're these. I mean, I'll just give you one of uh,
Go
the
for it.
the recession was one of those. The Great Recession of the 2000s. You know,
Would that be about 2008?
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it took about a year and a half, but it affected me by me losing all my clients in
Yeah.
about 6 weeks. So those moments but you see, I see those moments of transformation.
Yeah.
Okay, this has happened. So who am I going to be coming out of this? So over this period of time, what do you see? My questions are really not very clear. I'm looking for a kind of a pattern over the last 30 years of what you see that gives you hope
Yes. Excellent.
That's really what I'm interested in. Where
I
do you
love you
find
so
hope, and
much.
what do you see in the world that gives you that hope?
Okay. So I think in this case, I'm going to relate it to me directly,
Okay.
Ed. I believe
Love
that
that.
was the intention of
Yeah,
your,
it was.
however, it is to the world.
Yeah.
Because just before the recession hit the States in 2008, it hit Canada. And in particular, there was some crumbling going on in my home province where my dad was um, in, and that was back in 19, I would say probably 1990. Okay,
Hmm.
we hit it hard, where there were investments, the bank, somebody in an insurance company had oversold mortgages, and it went key rash. And it was similar to that recession that you folks experienced in 2008, where you go, holy crap, the banking systems are going, and where do we land? And
Oh,
my dad lost everything. So
oh.
that was fascinating. And I just watched him as he moved through it. Okay. It was the same time he and I both got cancer.
Mm.
And we go, oh, fascinating. Okay. So who are you when you strip away the trappings, so to speak, and values shine?
Hmm.
And so he immediately went into being of service to folks. He took his name off the masthead of the thing. He said, I'm not of service to you folks. And yet he spent 90 days after his company crashed finding jobs for everyone of the over 900. So in other words, he found investors to take the people and carry on. And then he carried on working behind the scenes. He didn't worry about pointing fingers at somebody who had pulled the plug. He just noticed, okay, that was crappy. And then for myself, within the cancer thing that I had, I noted I was feeling constricted anyway. I think I'm going to walk away from this as a sole way to earn my living. I'm going to become an artist of life, a shaper, a changer. So as I healed from cancer, I took on engaging in what I call the community workplace. Was it an arts newspaper? Was it retail? What did people need doing? And I learned how to do that and made connections. And also just dug down deeper in my community. Also around that time, I helped set up a meditation center, which is now over 37 years old. And it is one that when I was out last Sunday walking around, there were people who go, oh, I love this center. Oh, it gives me so much peace. And I thought, yay, I'm so glad I was one of the ones who put that together when I was stressed out at my most vulnerable. What do we need? I think we need some place to kind of quiet ourselves. What could I do about that? Where's the invitation? So a pattern of mine is to listen to my own drive of I want to be an actor, but actually, what is that? So when I went down deep, I want to take action on how I see things. I want to practice maybe on the stage. I'm good at it and film and such. And yet it's not only that. If I'm not given the vehicle, I will let that go and I will find out where else in the world do they need someone and build up, find connections, be of service. And then notice the invitations.
Hmm.
So if someone, I remember my son contacted me, I was in Quebec at that time, and he contacted me and said, I'm having a hard time getting through university. I went, oh, do you want to be there? He goes, yeah, I really do. It's not easy. I said, why don't we use transferable skills? And every week we'll contact each other. I'm trying to find a job in a French environment. I don't speak French very great. And you're trying to finish university, and we'll say what we learned beyond how they graded us. So we went through that time. And a couple of years later, once I moved back to Alberta, he invited me to join the group he was working for, which is the employment search agency I work with now.
About that.
Right. And then I was also helping somebody else run their business. I was working as a, physical labor assistant manager. And she said, would you be a business mentor? I was bringing all the things I knew from my dad, all the things I had absorbed. So when we dare to be who we are and say yes to what is before us, that, Ed, is hope. I don't want a hope, doesn't work for me, could work for other people. I don't want a hope that says at the end of this tunnel, because that doesn't help me get through right now. That takes, well, I'm in a different reality then. I want to be here.
Yeah.
So how do I use that? And I found someone uh, who I knew said, this is hope for me. And I've been depressed for many years. So this is how I found hope, was simply saying yes to life. I've also had depression for many, many years, over 30, and a good 15 to let it sit by the side. And yet I'm old enough that I can go, I know I can be empathetic. However, I know how important it is to do, to say yes to what is before you, and then take the next steps. And also, I'm a creative person, so I've been creative throughout that. Is it creative originality? Sometimes. Is it creative to link thoughts together? That's where you saw me on that presentation. You said, I want more of you. And I go, fair enough. And yet, here we go. And yet, that day, I linked what other people were doing so that for me, it was satisfactory. That's my experience being at the end speaker at events where they said, just come 2:30, we'll be at 3. And I said, no, I'll be coming at 8 o'clock when everyone gets there and find out who people are. So, and then now, as we have COVID, okay, and my friend and I, Gail, who I'd like you to meet, we were both on Zoom doing sessions and finding a frustration when people would say, well, I will change this or that behavior when things settle down. I will try something new when things settle down. We go, no, my friends, change is when you go in there because it's open. Once it's settled down, it's all sealed up again. So I have consistently been responsive to invitations to participate when change happens. A big one was 2020, was COVID.
Mhm.
What do we do when everybody's gone inside? They 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 went home. What do we do when people come here and say from other countries and say, how could we work? And we say, these are some things you can do to be part of community. So I always hook a bit of community into the mix. Uh, Often these days, very small things like having a conversation with yourself or a person I talked with yesterday in person, right?
What
Because we
I'm
could.
what I'm hearing
Mhm.
is that you're constantly responding to the situation that you're in. And your task is always responding positively to the situation. Even if it ends up being perceived as a negative, it's still a positive. Your actions are always positive in what you do. And it brings people and invites people in to discover something new about themselves or to renew their remembrance of themselves.
That's huge.
Yeah, it is.
That's
Because
huge.
I do find that people are, I use the word alienated. I think all
Yeah.
the mechanisms, the technology that we live with alienates people from actually the kind of deep interaction that we're having today. And the fact that we don't really know each other and yet we're able to have this conversation is because we're both of a mindset that we're willing to go to as deep as it's necessary to be available to the people we're talking to. Am I right about that?
I think you are. And yet, I'm going to push a little
Okay.
bit. You also, both you and I, think a lot. We research a lot.
Yeah.
We absorb things. And there was a saying, if I can find it now, I'm going to, which thrills me. Research or thinking is to see what everyone else has seen and think what no one else has thought.
I like that.
That's the game. And that was Schopenhauer. And then there was another person as well that they popped in on it. That is why we are doing this. When you said to me, so I'm just chatting with you, and you go, oh, I just happen to be writing about time and reality. I go, these are things that bring us to peace. These are things that motivate us to take action. I said to a client the other day, well, how would you feel if you don't take action on your dreams? Just asking. I don't actually
That's the
care.
backside of the coin.
Yeah. What would you, and you were saying, how do you want to be? I love the way you said, and then there are possibilities. For me, hope, if yes is simply going, I'm first going to breathe in despair. That's David White,
Yeah.
poet from Ireland,
Right.
and loves T.S. Eliot. And you go, first you breathe in despair. I got this from his book called Consolations. And then, after you've let it fill your whole body, take another breath and say, it's not the only thing. I will not let it be the only thing. So I will take another breath. Now that is hope in action. And then I will see what is here.
Yeah.
I will, part of where I'm holding the past can drop away. Part of what I think ought to be the future, drop away. And I can truly be present to respond to you. And you bring that into the game, which is why I will talk with you.
Yeah.
Because I don't talk to everyone who asks me. I don't have to.
I'm with you.
Right? I just go, I like this guy. I spent a whole freaking day with this man. And I liked the different ways he textured things. So I think I could have a conversation. And yet, I love the fact that we dove so deep
So
as we
too.
we just went in. It's like I remember one time in San Francisco, those trolleys, and you'd kind of run and get on, and then you're going around, right? And that's what you did when I came on here today. Hi, blah, blah, push record. Okay, we're in. Yes. And so
Well, that's the way relationships happen. I mean,
that's the game,
there's no script here.
right?
No, I don't even know how I'm ending this.
I know. It doesn't matter. At the moment, though, when we are talking, when you're having the kind of discussion that you had, so I'm going back to some threads you sent out. Who do you want to be while you're doing this? There is a beautiful book that says, what are the three important questions? And one is, what is the most important time? The second is, who is the most important one? The third is, what is the most important thing to do? Okay? And a famous Russian philosopher wrote this, and then it was transformed into a children's book.
I like that.
And then the most important time is now. So you place those people into now. Who do you want to be? You're basically inviting them. Who do you want to be right now? Do you want to be the person who thinks of other possibilities? Who is the most important one? Now, the essence is the person in front of you. The person in front of you. So wherever you are, you buying your groceries, it's the teller, the cashier, it's the student, it's the whoever. What is the most important thing to do is be of assistance to the person beside you. And so I played with that. For when you asked me, how long have you done this? I take pieces because my nature is an actor, but I take action on them, trot around like a little scientist and go, that one works. Honestly, seriously.
Well,
So in this case, this is what you are talking about. This is being in the present.
when you have a tremendous number of transferable skills, and you can walk into probably any situation and apply those skills and make a difference. And I think that's what people do not understand about who they are. I mean,
There you go.
they're trained to do things that they don't value, but they must do them because that's what they're paid to do. But they don't realize that they have learned other things that actually um, make a difference, you know. And so when I talk about people making a difference or taking action or creating impact or something like that, you know, I talk about it in the most simple terms. If you don't know what to do, walk out your front door and go down the street to where there's some older person and go knock on the door and say, "You got 5 minutes for a conversation?"
There you go.
Just
There
go
you go.
have a conversation with someone.
There you go.
Yeah, because I think that's where all the change that will happen will begin now.
And it is beginning because I
Yeah,
notice
it is.
it is happening.
So over the last 30 years, when I go back and ask you about I think that's one of the things I was looking for is to see what you see as how people are interacting with one another and how it's changed. And I think COVID had a tremendous impact upon how people desired to be in relationship with other people.
There you go. Yeah. And
They're still figuring it out.
and how they could get out of their insular village because with Zoom. Because there are times when, yes, you're chatting with your neighbors, and sometimes you're in an area where the mindset is really visor time. Like it's really, you just go, honestly, seriously, how do I, oh, how do I get out of this? And so that's what I found about 360 community with Dennis Patako
Yeah.
was that as Gail and I did this, we did a podcast for a couple of years, the Change Zone, and I reached out to LinkedIn and through Dennis's community and found folks who are making change happen in different areas throughout the world. And it eased my heart to know that beyond just down the street, sometimes there is a community that is taking action,
It's
right?
I think the I want to say this in the way I actually see it. Um, I've traveled a lot in my lifetime. I've I think been to over 20 countries in the world. I've talked to a lot of people, but it wasn't until I started podcasting 2.5 years ago that things really began to change. And I was doing my numbers the other day, and I have um, talked with people from 27 different countries and 31 different US states. And what I find is a level of commonality which would be astounding to the people who are the leaders of corporations and governments around the world, where they think that everyone is divided and everyone is in crisis. But if you talk to them as a normal person, you'll find that we all kind of have the same desires and the same wants, and we kind of look at people in the same way. We want there to be peace and caring and mutuality between us. And I don't care whether you live in Kenya or Canada or Cambodia, it doesn't matter. We all want the same thing. And I think I think the beauty of the internet, Zoom and things like that, is that it allows for that impression to become much more widespread. And I think that it will eventually have an effect which is greater than what the simulations that come on social media provide us. And I don't think AI will help us on that either, because
No.
it's just another form of the simulation. But this is what people want. People want this
Yes.
interaction, and
Yeah.
it's because what part of what they learn is how they see two people like you and me talking,
Yeah.
and what they
Mhm.
learn is how to talk with other people that are not like them.
There you go.
And then they find out, oh, well, we share some of the same interests. Oh, you have a child in fifth grade? Oh, I have one that's in seventh grade. How was that for you? When they were in fifth grade? Oh, well, this is what's going on. There are all these things that we have in common that are worth exploring. And I would say that the most important, one of the most important things to do is to say thank you. Thank you for
Oh,
listening. Thank you for
yes.
being here. And thank you for showing up. Thank you for what you're giving to the world. Thank you for all these things. And do it sincerely and with a deep sense of gratitude, because it's like the woman in the office in the big corporation. I was basically thanking her for loving the company that she worked for.
Yes.
So this
Right?
here, this is about recognizing someone who has something to offer to the world and appreciating them and affirming them, so that when it's all said and done, they feel like, "Ah, that was really great. I was seen and I was heard
There we go.
and I was appreciated."
So if, so then I'm going to push just tiny bit more. If they are seen and appreciated, what are you going to do about it? That's the invitation. If
That's
they're
right.
seen and appreciated, because compassion is empathy plus practical action. If they are seen and appreciated, what you going to do about it? Because you'll make a world of difference.
So here is what I would say, and you'll know what I'm going to say because it goes back to what I said last week. If you find someone like that, ask them, will you introduce me to people like yourself? I want to know more people like you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate knowing you. And please introduce me. For a podcast, it's easy. I'd love to have you on a podcast, but it's more difficult when you don't have a vehicle for that. But still, I would like to know people that are like you, and maybe we can, get together for coffee every 2 or 3 weeks, and we could just chat. Just be a
Yeah.
support to each other, and who knows what will come from that.
I love that. Yeah. And that's in essence what I did yesterday with a conversation where someone texted me and said, could we talk about such and such, an incident person? We could do it on the phone. I said, let's meet. Let's meet in a particular garden setting.
Oh, great. I love that.
Let's sit there. And as we talked about the incident, I kept bringing it back to us. Who is here before me? And what can we do? And actions flow from that. Like, yeah, who do you know? Who do you? And that happens. Like that's what drew me to you. And also it's in practice. It's what we're doing.
Yes, it is.
That's the game.
So, Susan, thank you for being here and being on the
Uh,
show and presenting your best self to us.
yeah. Ah,
I think people will find great encouragement from this.
yeah.
And I wish you well as you continue to do the things that you do and make a difference in the world that you live in there in Alberta, which is one of the beautiful places in the world.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the Rockies,
Yeah. I
those
drove through
beautiful
there
mountains and
50 years ago, and in
oh my gosh.
the middle of the night and hit a skunk.
And there's a story. I love
But
you.
yeah, it really is it is beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah,
So thank you
exactly.
very much, and we'll
Thank you.
see you again. I hope.
Yeah.
Let's continue the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And all of you who are watching or listening, understand that this is not an unusual thing. This is just normal. And it can be normal for you if you just act on it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here on the Eddie Network podcast. Bye-bye.